We're so happy to have you with us. Thanks to all of you for coming to church. Today's service focuses on the history of our Unitarian Universalist faith, particularly the history and use of the flaming chalice as our focal point and logo. Victoria Ingram.
My name is Amanda, and the territorial acknowledgement is we remember and honor the heritage of this land by acknowledging its original stewards and inhabitants. In our ongoing journey of reconciliation, we reflect on the Attawandarak and the Haudenosaunee people, as well as others who lived and continue to live in these treaty and territorial lands. It is important for all who live here to be in respectful relationship with one another as we consider our decisions now and in the future.
Oh, I'm not lighting the chalice because I can't.
Someone will help.
Here, I'll go light it. You just
Okay,
You read.
you light it and I'll say it because,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
perfect. Sound-wise, that's
a pagan that can't light a candle. Go okay with that. Thank you. As I light the chalice flame, please read the words on the slide along with me.
There is, okay.
No slide? Okay,
Let's see how well we remember.
all right.
So Liam's not here and we're suffering for it.
Okay. We'll go in
In
this
this
flame.
flame, we witness the power of transformation, awed again by the wonder of life. We are grateful to be vital to this living universe and inspiring community.
Okay, who's doing the story?
I'm doing this story and we'll take a shot at that hymn before we go into our story this morning.
Oh, our hymn, okay.
Yeah, hymns first. And do we have any kids with us this morning?
No.
No, it's pretty quiet. Just us older.
I like that.
Okay. So the first hymn we have today, I know, is one that you've heard before, and it's number 168. So it's in the Great Hymnal, if you'll have that one at a.
Management.
168.
So that's gotta go back.
No, we don't want to put it close to me like this. And would you like to stand this morning, or would you rather stay seated? Sitting are the words I heard first, so we will sit and sing. You can stand up if you
Rise as
want,
we're
it's up
able.
to you.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's easier to stand. Or it's easier to sing when.
We'll support you over here, we'll support you.
Or sit person, stand.
Yeah, support you.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone. We'll take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word and one more prayer. We will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer and one more song. We will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll take care of the story. Hold on, no, hold on, you don't keep going that way. When I'm done with the story. despite what I forgot to change as the detail in the script about today's service being about the chalice, it's actually in the next in the series of our conversations about our principles. And today we're talking about principle number 4 and principle number 5. And I have 2 small candles today because I'm grateful for the 4th and the 5th principles, that each person has the right to make a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And number 5, the right to follow our own conscience. One kid's version of the principles, or an easier version of the principles, says, we search for what is true, and everyone should have a vote in things that concern them. And I know for all of us, even if we've been around those words for a long time, you know, the concept of freedom and responsibility are 2 really big thoughts when you think about it. So let's first talk about freedom. What do you think freedom means in our religion? Just throw that out. What do you mean?
Feel constrained by rules.
Okay. Not so constrained by rules, okay?
No dogma.
No dogma. That's good. Thanks.
Sovereign.
Sovereign? Okay. Yeah, I think those are really great ways to think about that freedom, because there's certainly been times in the history of religion when, you know, people were discouraged from any kind of search other than what they were told and what was a part of, shared with them, you know, the shared wisdom of the elder or the priest. And so let's think about that other word. That other word is responsibility. So let's think about what is, okay, in our faith, if we take a free and responsible search, what do you think responsible means?
I guess to respect the freedom of others and their own individual search for these.
Understanding that all of us are going to find different things and respecting that. Okay, that's great.
Well, I'm gonna steal something from Ed. He said, I don't have the right to be right.
You don't have the right to be right. Well, we do ask you to hold on to your truth, but just with light fingers,
Well,
maybe.
You know, he meant in terms
Right.
of other people.
I think being cognizant of others, like being responsible not to do any harm or offend or interfere in others' searches, you know, very open and accepting mind would be to be responsible.
It's all of our principles. We talked about this in the sermon too, that we read them as, you know, 8 principles, 8 separate statements, but they actually nest. So if we are on responsible search, we're also remembering that we are worthy and dignified, all of us. So we're not criticizing someone or mocking them or, you know, rolling the eyes, so to speak, when somebody else says, this is what the truth I've found. So very good, that's good.
So when I hear the word responsible, I think of like when my son was born, and I felt responsible to bring him up and to nurture him as best I could without blasting him with my dogma, and to sort of shape him into an independent person. So with us, we're in a community, and we're trying to create community here, not just individuals. So there is a sense of responsibility to each other to nurture and to build each other up.
Yes.
And even though it doesn't mean to conform those people to our opinion, but part of our concept of a community, if we're going to embrace that concept that we want community, is that there's a responsibility to each other to care for them.
So in community, we take on, if we want to have a voluntary community, we take on as a part of that, that we are responsible for each other and we keep an eye on each other and keep each other on track. Great, those are really good.
Mine is owning your thoughts and feelings.
Owning your thoughts and feelings, that's
Right,
very
when that
good.
comes up to you, it's like, not because of that guy or that guy, but it's mine.
So neat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Our Unitarian and Universalist histories are full of people who helped us understand that our search for the truth and our job as meaning makers happens with freedom and responsibility. So I'm going to light this first candle in thanks for our religious freedom. And this second candle, oh, I don't know, that looks kind of good. I didn't realize I liked wax quite so much. This doesn't happen every Sunday.
Your taste buds are affected by your cold.
I can't taste much, but this as a candle goes, it's not bad. I didn't have enough this morning apparently for breakfast. So, would anyone like to comment on what just happened, what I did?
Something unexpected.
Something unexpected. Oh, yeah. Hardly had time with my mouth full of candle.
Far from the norm.
It's apart from the norm.
Oh, that was good. That was a gag. That's gonna make it to the group chat. We'll be talking about that one.
It made me want to think that I wouldn't mind trying that myself.
I have another one. So, you might say, well, you ate a candle. And imagine there was a young child here. As adults, we're a little more skeptical. But imagine there was a kid here who said, you weirdo woman, you ate the candle. We don't do that. I may be young, but I know the rules. We don't do that. How many people initially thought I was holding 2 candles? Yeah, it looked like that, right? White chocolate is a great way to make an extra candle. And so when you have that picture in your mind, of course, the first thing you think is, even as an adult, you think, oh, she took a bite of the candle. And then a part of our brain as adults kicks in and goes, well, we know she's a bit wacky, but I don't think that's happening here. You know, that's not it. So one thing I really love about being a Unitarian Universalist is that we get to form our own beliefs and decide what's true for us. And that's the free part of our search for truth and meaning. And another thing that I love about being a Unitarian Universalist is that even when we think we know or believe something, we get to question it and even change our mind. So a lot of you may have thought, well, a lot of you thought it looked like I was holding 2 candles, and then I ate one and your mind went, oh, that's not right. Then you had to question that first belief that you had. And maybe someone even guessed that it was actually a fake candle. That probably happened within seconds. And it was, as I mentioned, made out of white chocolate. So I suggest, sometime on a Saturday afternoon, you go into Bulk Barn and ask where the white chocolate is because you want to make fake candles. And that is the responsible part of our search for what's true. Unitarian Universalists try to keep an open mind and allow new information to reshape what we believe is true. So as you go into the next week and you're confronted with new things and new stuff happens all the time, you might want to pause and ask yourself, especially in this very interesting political climate, is that really true? And how do I know? How can I be sure that's true? And if I don't think it's true, how can I confirm or find the information that I need? And if you are able to do that, then you can also offer gratitude that this is what we do in our UU faith as well. And our next person in line And you can, if you don't want to be the next reader, you can pass, it's just fine. If you,
Not sure that's gonna.
I think it might,
Okay, that would be.
reading. It's just about there. I'm reluctant to touch the.
Hi, I'm Ruth Ann. Our reading this morning is titled The Right of Conscience and was written by Rev. Kenneth Collier. Conscience is central to every tradition. For Taoists, it's what they call tea, the movement of the inalienable tool, and that gives each of
It gives, the word is gives, I'm sorry.
that
It's a
gives
typo.
each of us our individual strength and power. It is the voice of what Plato referred to as Eret, the wisdom or virtue of your soul that makes you the unique and precious person you are. It is the upwelling of that which Buddhists call the Buddha nature that permits every person to achieve enlightenment.
It starts to Hindus, this is where you are, Lisa.
To Hindus, it is the image of that special step in Shiva's dance that brings you into existence and allows you to be. It is that which impels us to the good, that which ennobles and elevates and frees and heals. It is that which we have stifled or ignored when we do injury or harm and bring brokenness to life. Unitarian Universalists think of it as the manifestation of our inherent worth and dignity. Every tradition calls on its adherents to make conscience visible, really, and manifest real, and manifest in their living. Excuse me while I turn the page. Something conscience, and there could not be religion without it.
Hello, I'm Julie. We support our community and our church by our contributions of time, money, and energy. When the basket passes, share what you are able. Your gifts are greatly appreciated and greatly accepted.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, we should just wait a second. Yeah, you would.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, I appreciate that.
To you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
It is good. It's good too. You can grab that chair. Sorry for the fuss.
This is the sharing joys and challenges. My name is John. Our mutual life in this congregation is enhanced by sharing our joys and challenges with one another. If you'd like to share something from this week with us, please come forward and select a stone to place in the bowl of water. Then briefly share your joy or challenge.
So as I mentioned before, that we've been exploring our 8 principles, and today we're at numbers 4 and 5. And for those of you who don't have them memorized, don't feel bad. I've been a minister for a long time and I still have never memorized them, so it's okay. Congregations agree to affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And number 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. You may remember back to our discussion of principles 2 and 3, that our UU statements of values often present an opportunity to approach their implementation sort of from two places, two strategies, 2 points of view. And sometimes those points of view or strategies even seem to be a bit at odds with one another. And principles 4 and 5, again, include those kinds of dichotomies that put us in an interesting place, and we're going to talk more about that. So in principle 4, a free search for truth and meaning, but one that is also responsible, which seems to imply that we are free to go whatever places our whims take us in terms of finding our truth, and in the words of Joseph Campbell, we can follow our bliss. And then there's the admonition to make sure our search is responsible. And when we find what seems to be a true thing, we engage in a process of due diligence that ensures we have been conscientious and sound in our exploration. Responsible in this case means that we've applied our reason and rationality to what we've encountered. We have been disciplined in our exploration, and that we have vetted this truth to rule out the possibility that we've been mislaid or misinformed or duped by someone who is perhaps insincere, uninformed, or duplicitous, who has another agenda perhaps. And there are those I know in Unitarian Universalism, and some of you may be those people here in this room, that would say, well, if we can be free, but we have to be responsible for truth and meaning, well, then that takes all religion off the table, because it's not true or it's not responsible. But go with me here, we have a principle and we're going to stay in our faith. Another challenge of the fourth principle might be in the pairing of truth and meaning, because these two concepts are not always one and the same. Truth is defined as that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality, and meaning is about that which has importance, value, significance, or symbolism. So it's possible that something can be true, but hold no particular meaning for us as an individual. It is also possible that something we experience as deeply meaningful might not pass a rational test for truth. Those of us who are Unitarian Universalists often talk about the big tent, that we have a big tent of theology. Our doors, well, there aren't even doors on our big tent of theology. We invite people to come in with various resources and various traditions, various theologies, philosophies, and points of view. And we include these often in our UU practice of faith. And I know that we have people among us who are pagans, and we have people who identify as Christians, and atheists and agnostics. There are humanists, and there's Jews and Hindus and Muslims, as well as those who embrace indigenous traditions. Now, think about all of the religious traditions that you know about. If you think about it, you will realize that each of those traditions embraces a very different version of a creation story. How we explain how we got here, what we're supposed to be doing and behaving, and what will happen to us after we die. And as you know, when you think about the traditions you know of, not all of those stories agree. They often contain very conflicting elements. They can be true, although they can have great meaning for adherents of that tradition and other people. So they may not be true, so to speak. So it's important to reiterate that our principles are to be practiced in our lives and in our congregations, again, as I mentioned earlier, as a set, not a list of options or suggestions from which we can choose. And in that way, they're a bit like the 10 Commandments. You know, you don't go to, I even forget the commandments order, but you know, you don't get to honor your mother and father and then go kill your neighbor. You know, that's not an option. Well, I did one. So our principles are the same, that we nest them, we do them together. What the principles posit is that each of us carries within our worth and dignity as a very rare and unique and valuable jewel, a vital gift that we are to work to discover and then share with the world. Now, sometimes you watch children and you know that they're already in contact with their deep and abiding jewel. They get it. And sometimes that jewel gets a little obscure for us, or it gets lost. Hopefully, as we mature and we learn more, we encounter this jewel, and we embrace its potential as a part of our living and being and becoming human. And I want you to know that some of the concepts in today's sermon are from the Reverend Ken Collier. And he wrote a book called The 7 Principles in Story and Verse, which he uses as a platform to explain what our principles are about. And he has said, this worthy jewel we are called to uncover within ourselves may seem at times almost insignificant or perhaps vague. And perhaps some of us actually hoped that when we got there, that our jewel was going to be something really grand and glorious, some kind of amazing fate or gift or talent, but it isn't always that way. Reverend Collier goes on to say that to be spiritual is to follow the journey into truth and meaning, to discover the treasure that you have, and to make it real and visible in our lives. However our lives unfold, that's our journey. All of it's important. There's another concept in Unitarian Universalism that has been put forward, and I like the concept, I like the thought that it gives me, that all of us hold a piece of the truth. To me, it's sort of like, if we stood in a giant room that was made completely out of windows that were stained glass, and we were standing shoulder to shoulder looking out, all of us would see the beauty of that stained glass from a different perspective and different angle. The jewel and the beauty wouldn't be any different, but our perspective would be. So let's now turn our attention to principle number 5. This dichotomy is set as the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process for decision-making, participation, and governance. We know that there are hundreds of strategies in the world for setting up and maintaining order, getting things done in a group, and responding to the needs of the community or the constituency. As we've chosen to embrace the democratic ideal, including everyone's voice while letting the majority ultimately prevail. Now, I would agree with you that democracy doesn't always get it right. And we use it in our faith tradition, because we believe in the right and the exercise of conscience, and democracy allows for voices and people to show up. I know that we have all experienced many times when democratic principles have resulted in well-functioning societies and communities, at least for some period of time. And in concept, democracy seems well aligned with our value for each person's worth and dignity, and for championing justice and equity and compassion. And I know that we can also point to examples of when the majority got it wrong in the years when we allowed slavery, in the practice of institutional racism, in the vast divides that we see between haves and have-nots. There are multiple examples. And I think when economic systems and societal norms and expectations, and sometimes when greed gets involved and a desire for power, then democracy may be the name we call it, but the reality reflects virtually none of democracy's ideals. So in Principle 5, we are asked to pay close attention to our conscience. And you may have heard the term, the still small voice. It's the still small voice, our deeply held sense of right and wrong, our personal ethics and morals. It's important to remember that conscience is not the voice of conventional morality. It's Dr. Reverend Collier's opinion, and I happen to agree with him. Rather, it asks us to go deeper and more thoughtfully into how we embrace the worth of everyone, how we seek to ensure and respect various points of view and experiences that are at the table when we discuss important ideas, decisions, and proposals. An important part of our democratic process, again, links back to that first principle about worth and dignity. We believe that everyone does need to be at the table. So not just the 5 people that happen to agree with you, the 4 people who happen to look and live their lives just like you do, but a representation of the entire community in its diversity, in its complexity, and in its beauty. And democracy can be rigorous in its demands and inclusivity. You know, it's a lot easier to sit down with 3 people that you agree with and agree on a course of action than it is to have to sit at the table and listen to a whole bunch of people tell you a bunch of stuff you don't want to hear. And especially to try to then include them in an outcome that everybody can sign on for. Democracy needs caring and concerned participants who take the initiative to educate themselves and understand the issues of any given situation. It takes people who are willing to be involved and to speak up and ask questions, to vote, and then to find creative ways to work together moving forward for the collective good. It takes checks and balances and being willing to keep personal power, influence, and greed constrained. You know that Mark Carney called the upcoming election today. We have until the end of April to make some choices, one of which is, am I going to show up for the election? And if I go for showing up in this election, am I going to be prepared to cast my ballot? I have no idea who you should vote for, but I would encourage you to be informed and to vote. Now, while some of our earlier principles seem to be focused on our personal journey of faith and practice, numbers 2 and 5 are more collectively concerned with our experience in community. These principles are the place where our first inklings of being actively involved and being a voice for social justice, equity, inclusion, and compassion show up as a part of our system of governance. Democracies can be fragile in their implementation and their viability. I know that when you think about it and you go back through history, you can find many examples of how quickly it can be compromised and perverted and abused. Our principles call us to be vigilant in our defense, advocacy, and protection of our democratic ideals. Our 8 UU principles lay out a foundational path of steps and actions, behaviors, and ideas that we embrace as a part of our faith. They help to inform our beliefs and shape our communities and illuminate our way forward. I know many of us alive in these years think that it was Martin Luther King Jr. who first talked about the arc of justice bending, the arc of the universe bending towards justice. Viruses affect brain cells too, apparently. But actually, I was surprised to learn years ago that it was actually a Unitarian minister named Theodore Parker, and he lived from 1810 to 1860. He was a transcendentalist, a reformer, and an abolitionist. And he said, I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one, and my eye reaches but a little way. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can only divine it by conscience. And from what my conscience tells me, I am sure it bends towards justice. I hope all of us continue to refer and reference our principles as we think about our own journey, about the choices we have made to embrace Unitarian Universalism, and how that manifests in the choices and decisions we make on a day-to-day basis. Let us continue to embrace our Unitarian Universalist role in seeing that the arc continues to move in the direction of justice. Amen.
Good morning, my name is Wendy, and this is a meditation. Our meditation words this morning are from Reverend Krista Tobbs, entitled Celebrating the Power of Choice. Please find a comfortable position in which to rest for a bit, listening to these words and letting yourself be in the moment.
Can you just put the mic a little closer to me? Thank you.
Spirit of love and power, we are gathered today in beloved community that we might manifest in our lives the values and truths that we hold dear. Let us rejoice that we are together for this holy time. The transformation we seek is holy work, and the bonds that hold us together are sacred. We of the Free Church tradition know that choice is at the heart of our faith, that freedom of conscience is one of our cornerstones, and that we have been entrusted with the means and the faculties to make wise and loving and sometimes difficult decisions about the most important matters of life. We know that when we listen to the still, small voice within, that we have met the sacred, and we know and trust that when we listen deeply to that still, small voice, we are called to be moral agents. In that context, every choice is a blessed choice, a manifestation of the sacred power of life that we are entrusted with. We would ask then, not only for the continued freedom to do so, but that we might stand in reverence before the trust and responsibility that has been given to each of us. Let us teach each other and our children how to use these sacred gifts that we may transform ourselves, our community, and our world. In the spirit of truth, compassion, and wholeness, this we pray. Amen.
Let's turn in our hymnals to hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Some of you know the words, I'm sure. Some of you can use your book. 123. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, extinguish our chalice. Any chance you can find a slide for that? Extinguishing the chalice?
Yeah,
It's,
I should have opened up this stuff.
no, no,
Yeah.
because I didn't have them either, so.
Yeah, no. This is already on deficit. too.
Okay, hold on 1 minute, I'm gonna find them.
While you're doing that, I have a joke that might stay.
Oh, let's go for a joke.
It is as a group of religious people are writing a letter to their God. So the Muslim man writes to Allah, the Christian person would write Dear Jesus, and the Unitarian would say, to whom it may concern.
To whom it may concern.
That would be all of us.
These words are from the Buddhist tradition. Be ye lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourself as to the only lamp. You could go ahead and extinguish that.